Hello guys, welcome to Interchange 3 Unit 8, Never Stop Learning. In this unit we're going to talk about would rather and would prefer. And also we will discuss about by plus gerund to describe how to do things. Let's begin. Would rather and would prefer. Use would rather and would prefer to say that you like one thing or activity more than another. For example, I prefer to study French. I'd rather take classes in the morning. When you use would rather, you need to use the base form of the verb. For example, would you rather study Spanish in Mexico or Argentina? I'd rather study in Mexico. Now, if you want to mention the two options, the option that you prefer and the option that you are excluding, you mention it like this. I'd rather study in Mexico than in Argentina. Now, if you don't like option number 1 and option number 2, you can say something like this. I'd rather not study in either country. That means that you don't want to study in Mexico and you don't want to study in Argentina. Another example. Would you rather be an actor or a teacher? I'd rather be an actor. I'd rather be an actor than a teacher. I'd rather not be either. In this case, you're mentioning the two options, the option that you prefer and the option that you are excluding. And here, you don't like the option number 1 and you don't like option number 2. That's why you say, I'd rather not be either. You don't want to be an actor and you don't want to be a teacher. When you use would prefer, you need to use the infinitive form, which is to plus the verb. For example, would you prefer to have a private tutor or take online classes? I prefer to have a private tutor. I prefer to have a private tutor rather than take online classes. I prefer not to do either. In the first example, you prefer to have a private tutor. In the second example, you still prefer to have a private tutor, and then you mention the option that you are excluding, the option that you don't like. And in the last option or sentence, you don't prefer one or the other. You don't like the first option and you don't like the second option. That's why you don't want to do any of the things you mentioned. And that's why you say, I prefer not to do either. You don't want to have a private tutor and you don't want to take online classes either. The second example, would you prefer to work with Kelvin or Russell? I prefer to work with Kelvin. I'd prefer to work with Kelvin rather than with Russell. I prefer not to work with either person. In the first example, you prefer Kelvin. In the second example, you still prefer Kelvin, but you mention the option that you prefer and the option that you don't prefer. And in the last one, you don't like to work with Kelvin and you don't like to work with Russell. So you say, I prefer not to work with either person because you don't want to work with Russell and you don't want to work with Kelvin either. For invitations, you can also use rather and prefer when you want to refuse an invitation or plan, or when you don't want to accept it because you don't like the option. For example, let's learn Chinese. If you don't like the idea, you can use this. I'd rather not learn Chinese, or I'd rather not. That means that you don't like this idea. The other example, let's take cooking classes. I prefer not to take cooking classes, or I prefer not to. In this case, again, you don't like this idea, and that's why you are using rather not or prefer not to say that you don't like the idea. Would rather versus prefer. With would rather, you use only verbs. With prefer, you can use verbs or nouns. For example, I'd rather eat pizza. If you notice here, you have the verb eat. With rather, you always need a verb. Now here you have would prefer. I prefer to eat pizza. Here you have a verb. Here, I prefer eating pizza. Here you have gerund. And here you have a noun, pizza. The three options are correct, but here with would rather you can only use a verb. If you want, you can mention the second option. For example, I'd rather eat pizza than fried chicken. I prefer to eat pizza rather than fried chicken. I prefer eating pizza to fried chicken. I prefer pizza to fried chicken. This is a conversation between two people talking about ways to improve pronunciation and also ways to learn new words. Let's listen to them.
Page 52. Exercise 8. Conversation. It works for me. Part A. Listen and practice.
So how's your Mandarin class going?
Harder than I expected, actually. I'm finding the pronunciation very difficult.
Well, I imagine it takes a while to get it right. You know, you could improve your accent by watching movies.
That's a good idea. But how do you learn new vocabulary? I always seem to forget new words.
I learn new English words best by writing them down and reviewing them many times. I've been using this vocabulary building app. It really works for me. Look.
Maybe I should try something like that.
By plus gerund to describe how to do things. You can use by plus gerund to describe how to do things. For example, I learn new words best by using them as much as possible. You could get good grades by participating in class and studying at home. The best way to learn slang is not by watching the news, but by watching TV series. In this case, this is what you want to do, and this is the way that you're gonna do it. You have by and then gerund. Remember, by it's a preposition, and if you mention a verb after by, you need to use the gerund form. In this case, we have two options. The first one, don't do this, but do this. Here, the best way to learn slang is not by doing this, but by doing this action. This is the action that you shouldn't do, and this is the action that you should do if you want to learn slang. To create sentences with by plus gerund to describe how to do things, this is the formula that you need to follow. You need to mention what you want to do, by, the gerund, and the complement. For example, one way to learn new words is by reading books. You can learn how to play the piano by taking classes. One way to learn how to cook is by helping your mother when she cooks. Some people improve their pronunciation by talking with native speakers. The best way to learn a new language is not by being shy, but by talking with others. You could learn how to dance by watching videos on YouTube and practicing with a partner. In this case, we have what you want to do. You have by. After by, we have a gerund. The gerund is going to indicate or express the action that you have to do in order for you to do or make this possible. And the complement or the extra information. Now we are going to see some life skills. Artistic appreciation. The knowledge and ability to understand art, its origin, techniques, and movements. Communication skills. The abilities you use when giving and receiving different kinds of information. Competitiveness. A strong desire to be more successful than others. Concern for others. The ability to care for others and show empathy. Cooperation. The act of working together to achieve a common goal. Creativity. The use of imagination or original ideas to create something. Money management. the ability to know how to handle, organize, save, invest, and spend money. Perseverance, the ability to keep trying something until you achieve it, no matter how difficult it is. Problem solving, the ability to identify a problem, determine its cause, and find possible solutions to solve the problem. Self-confidence, the act of believing in yourself and in your abilities or skills to do something well. Self-discipline, the ability to control and motivate yourself, stay on track, and do what is right. Courtesy, politeness, respect, and consideration for others. Time management, the ability to use time effectively or productively, especially at work. Tolerance, the ability to accept or not interfere with beliefs, actions, or practices that are different from yours. Well guys, that was everything for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.